So after my last video, and I mentioned at the end of it that after you have these very intense, life-changing psychedelic experiences, that it can be very difficult to relate to your friends and family or really feel like you have much in common with the people that used to be a big part of your life. I was so confused for the longest time after these experiences because, like, I couldn't prove anything to myself, and you can't. You can't prove shit. You're left with very few people that you can even relate to in your everyday life, because obviously not everyone I know or grew up with smokes DMT or had that experience, and you do feel like an outsider from a lot of your friends, even your family, and it can be challenging to deal with, but that's a video all in its own self. Well, after that, a overwhelming amount of people suggested that I make a video specifically on this topic. Now, I really did not expect that many people to be interested in this, nor did I naively realize that there was that many people out there who have tried psychedelics and who have found themselves in the exact same boat that I found myself in. Specifically, when I first came back from New Zealand, I mean, I had lived there for a year, and that's where the bulk part of these DMT and enlightening experiences took place, meaning a lot of the people in my life hadn't seen me for that year. And when you're on this journey of self-discovery and consciousness exploration, a lot can change. I mean, if you come back from New Zealand after a year wearing hats that are as stupid as this, it's no wonder that you don't have much in common with the people that you used to care about anymore. But joking aside, this is going to be a very serious video. In fact, I'm so sick of editing footage and doing special effects, and I'm pissed that the last video has, at least currently, it's been demonetized, meaning I put all that effort of a month of work in, all for it to be limited in the amount of shares it can get. I've decided that this video is going to just be one run through, no cuts like I usually do, nothing. I am just going to spill my guts and spew this story out and hope for the best and that it turns out good. So I think that the best way that I can help you guys, it's kind of the only way that I feel like I can help you guys who may be struggling with this problem where you just feel like you may even be losing friends and family because you're no longer on the same wavelength as them, is to first relate my own experience so that you guys can maybe take comfort in feeling like you're not alone, because I'm really not quite sure that there is a definitive answer for this. And I also do want to point out that this isn't necessarily a problem that everybody who trips faces. I don't want to make it sound like these psychedelic issues are universal and that if you try psychedelics, you are guaranteed to run into this, well, wall, because not everybody does. But those who do have this problem, well, it can really negatively impact their life. And it's one of the darker sides to psychedelics that doesn't often, if really ever, get touched upon, which kind of blows my mind because, well, these experiences can change your life forever for the better, and they can make you a more well-rounded and genuine, authentic person. They also do have the unrelenting ability to absolutely decimate all aspects of your old life to the point where those who you used to care about may no longer even recognize you. And this can have a negative impact on many facets of life, including relationships to even just your work. So let's just dive head first, balls deep into this. Balls deep. Why am I talking about balls? Too much masturbation lately, but that's too much information. Into this story, and yeah, let's jump right into it. So, as you guys know, while I was in New Zealand, I pretty much decided that that's where I was going to figure out what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, or at least try to fix my life, because as some of you guys know, I was not on a very straight and narrow path. It was a windy one full of pitfalls and ditches that I like to hang out and chill in for a long time. So my New Zealand adventures largely circulated around this notion that I had that while I was there, I was going to uncover what I wanted to do with my life. And sure enough, I come back from New Zealand making these videos. It's kind of ironic and hilarious, and it works. But at the same time, when you feel like you've experienced reality in a way that the normal, everyday, society-influenced, brainwashed person, has never really had the chance or even wanted to experience, there's a big part of you that feels special. There's really no easy way to say this. There's no way to sugarcoat this without sounding like an arrogant prick, but it's kind of like the spiritual ego. You kind of develop this psychedelic spiritual ego where you look at people who haven't experienced what you have as not really less than you, because you're at least for myself, I was more aware of my thoughts than to think they were less than me. More so, you look at them as if they're just missing this huge aspect of reality. It's like they're missing a big piece of the puzzle, and you know where the instruction manual is hidden for them to finally figure out where this missing piece is. But the problem is a lot of them don't even know that they're missing this piece of the puzzle. Hell, they don't even know that they're building a puzzle. And you come in and you're like, hey man, you know what? I know your life, seems great, or if someone having a shitty time, I know it seems shitty, but you would not believe that I have the answer to your problem. All you got to do is realize that you've got a puzzle and you're missing a piece. And it's really hard to convince people that there's something out there that can heal them or give them new insight, especially when there's this huge stigma attached to all drugs, where your average person thinks that you take LSD and you see pink elephants flying around and monkeys and shit. It's a really hard pitch to sell. It's not easy. And you kind of get this feeling once you've had that trip yourself that if someone else doesn't see reality in the way that you do, you're just never going to really be able to get on board with their thoughts, feelings. You're never going to be able to really relate to them again in the same way that you used to. So there's a big part of, at least I can only speak for myself, of me, where it was like I wanted my friends and family to have these experiences because I felt like I had figured out the answer, and it was there. That you take psychedelics, you get the answers to the universe, and you will be happier after that. I mean, initially, I definitely was in the honeymoon phase with the drug, and I didn't realize some of the very real negatives that it could cause, and I really didn't see at first how this wasn't for everybody and how it can actually cause some serious harm to people who aren't prepared for the experience. So there's that. But I guess what you guys really want me to answer is, how do you get over this? And I'm just going to do what I do best, and I'm going to be as blunt and upfront as possible. It's kind of the thing that only time and, in a way, reintegrating back into society can fix. I think a large reason why people like my videos is because they can relate to me, and that's because I'm not completely out there. Like, I mean, I'm out there, I'm definitely a weird dude, but I'm not just so far out where it's just like, wow, that dude's had his brain fried because he can't even communicate anymore. I've always kept one foot in the psychedelic reality as well as one foot in this reality, or even just in society, in the sense where I can relate to people who are still very much so grounded in what they believe to be normal belief patterns and things that are acceptable in this world to the masses, like not doing drugs. And I think that's why I have a lot of viewers who don't do drugs. They just like listening to my stories, because I've never completely just gone full druggo. And when I first got back from New Zealand, I kind of wasn't as I am right now. I mean, a little bit, but it was more so an act. I remember having to actively put on the face as if I was, the old me for a little while. And it felt very uncomfortable. And all I wanted to do was just talk to everybody about how much more there is and how beautiful the world can be if you just drop your guard for a little bit and try something new. And it was really difficult to try to just mesh back in with these people who were just really never going to want to see things my way, just largely because of the social stigma. So in the beginning, it was a mask, and there was a point when I actively decided that I wanted to forget a lot of what I learned. I mean, some of the experiences I had were very dark and challenging, to the point where even trying to integrate them in a positive way at the time seemed almost impossible. So there also was a large part of me that wanted to forget. I often had these psychedelic trips that made me feel like I was solely responsible for waking up the world, and it felt like just so much responsibility that a huge part of me wanted to go back to being asleep because I couldn't bear it. It was just way too much for me to handle. And that's a big reason why I started these videos too. It was my way of just like saying, okay, I give in. I will do what you ask, you psychedelic gods from hell. But at least let me try to keep a small piece of myself at the same time, and let me keep a little bit of my sanity, please. I'm exaggerating here, but it's kind of how I felt at the time. I largely believe that if I didn't actively seek to, I don't know, reacquaint myself with society and how normal people act, that I probably would still be struggling with it today. And when you do come out of these experiences, you quickly realize that if you want to be able to continue to be a part of this society and to contribute to it, and to even just be able to interact with people in a beneficial way, there is a degree of that experience that you have to leave behind. In a way, it feels like you're betraying what you learned because you're saying, yes, I realize these things, and I realize that our world and society is very, very sick, and to try to function normally in a society that's inherently sick and insane is going to make you sick and insane again. And you're kind of backtracking on everything you've learned, but at the same time, you've got to find this balance where if you don't do that, you're going to go sick and insane just because you're going to feel isolated, and we're social creatures and we need that bond with others in order to just really, well, experience happiness as a whole. And you could find a nice little clique of people all who trip, but there's always, I think, going to be people in your life, at least for the bulk majority of us, that are either against these experiences or that who really just aren't interested in ever understanding. And there's always just going to be this big, thick wall between you of, thick plexiglass, bulletproof glass that you can't smash with a chair. And the only one that has the ability to take it down is you. And you kind of have to just drop your new ego and realize that, hey, if I'm, being so firm in my stance that I can't acknowledge that other people just won't ever be able to see things the way I do, to the point where I'm the reason why these relationships are being damaged, well, you quickly realize that, hey, what have I learned? If I can't let go of my ego enough to salvage, people in my family, then I don't think I've learned shit. So it really just comes down to just giving yourself time. That's what I want to say is the biggest factor in integrating back into the world. It takes time. For me, it took months and months and months of not tripping. And this is after being in New Zealand and tripping way too much. As you guys know, when I came back, I barely tripped at all. And I'm kind of happy that I did that, because I probably wouldn't have been able to carry on this channel in the same productive way if I was continually tripping. I mean, maybe I would. I'm making assumptions here. But I feel like it was getting to the point, for me personally, where continuing to chase that psychedelic enlightenment experience was having an opposite effect, to the point where I was just having bad trip after bad trip. And it was, well, in a very real sense, hurting me. It was hurting my mental health. I don't particularly enjoy making videos like this because I feel in order to stay in line with safety and to be this harm reduction guy, I do sometimes go way too far in the direction of being overcautious. But at the same time, I do feel like that's the best direction to go in, especially when you're dealing with such inherently powerful substances. You should be aware beforehand that if you do have a life-changing experience, it fits the bill. It is actually life-changing. A change will occur in your life, and it may not necessarily be what you are imagining. It might not be what you predict. Often these thoughts of enlightenment sound so fantastic. It's so grandeur, right? Like, yes, I'm going to get enlightened, and then all of life is just going to be happy and rainbows and butterflies. And then you have that experience and you realize that there's definitely suffering involved there too. It's like there's always a degree of suffering. It always really just comes back to you and your goddamn ego. The more you think you've killed the ego, the bigger the ego has actually become, and it's just put on a new disguise, and it's hiding from you in that way. Life can feel like a merry-go-round of constantly feeling like you're getting slightly ahead, and then realizing, oh my god, deja vu, I've already been here before. I thought I already got past this. And then you get a little bit more ahead and you're just back again. But what you don't see is there really are some small, increasements in personal growth that do happen. I would say that my best advice, though, is if you are feeling that way, number one, lay off psychedelics for a while. They have their place. You can trip again. Doesn't mean you're never going to trip if you want to. But give it a break and give yourself some time, because time is really this magic thing that heals a lot of stuff. And unfortunately, and fortunately, with enough time, you can kind of start reverting back to your old self. The real truth of the matter is, for myself, and even though I'm saying I have in a sense reintegrated back, there's a large part of me that never has. And you know what? Just because of how profound the impact of these trips has been for me, because of what I believe I've seen and learned, I never will be able to 100% integrate back into society or fully relate in the same way to some of the people in my life that I used to be very close with. And I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. You could call that selfish or call that egotistical, but I am proud of my growth, and I'm proud of some of the changes that I've made just mentally. And I'm proud of the direction that these experiences have taken my life in. And I wouldn't want to ever be fully back. I enjoy the space that I'm in, and I've met like-minded people from doing this channel. You guys out there, the people who watch me, we've got this insanely positive community that seemingly understands each other in ways that I didn't think was possible. And we're out here and we support each other and give each other nothing but love, because I feel like a lot of us are going through very similar issues. So just having this community can really help, because part of, the truth is, you just might never fully be able to have the life that you used to have, at least not in the same sense. And that's a risk that you guys should know if you are considering tripping. If you're fully happy with your life the way it is, maybe this isn't something that you want. But you also have to remember that in my own personal story, there are people in my life and my partner's life who have just fully rejected them, largely because they had these experiences. So I've seen a really dark, negative side to this. I've seen all angles, really, which is why, not to toot my own horn, I think I'm great for the job of harm reduction, because I've seen the good, the bad, the middle. I've personally experienced all aspects of what tripping entails, to the degree where I'm very well-rounded and not really biased anymore, in my opinion. It's actually a really good topic for the next video. Kind of leading on from this is some very big people that have abandoned my partner. And, watching her go through that is really hard. Trying to be there for her is really hard when there's just nothing that I can do to bring those people back. And just, it's tough seeing the ones that you care about struggle because of choices that are personal, that shouldn't really affect other people in the way that they have. It's really, really sad and scary how some people are so ingrained in their societal programming that they can't even step outside of the box for just a second to get a clear view of things. They just fully believe what they've been told, don't do their own research, and once they get an opinion on something, set in stone, no changing it without breaking it, and that would break them, and we can't have that. God forbid they see things from a new point of view. As you get older, that neural net in your brain just hardens and gets more and more concrete to the point where it's very difficult to learn things. But anyway, I'm branching off into topics I don't need to branch off into. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. And the next video I have planned is probably going to be more back to some of my old stuff. But hey, if you guys enjoyed this more raw, me just spilling my guts and feelings type of video, I can easily make this into a series, because this takes absolutely no effort to do. No editing is really involved, like very, very slight, just putting the music in at the end and stuff. And yeah, let me know if you want to see more of this, and I will gladly make more content like this. Especially now that I'm pissed that the video I worked so hard on is going to be limited in its shares. But hey, maybe that's not true. Maybe they'll change their mind and it'll be monetized. It's not really that I care about it not making money. It's just when it's not monetized, they limit the shares. That's what I care about, working that hard on something and having its shares limited. But anyway, it's neither here nor now. I will see you guys all in the next video. Leave your questions below that you would like to, well, ask me, or, certain topics you'd like me to cover in this fashion. Let me know below, and I'll see what I can do. I promise to always wear silly hats as well. I will see you guys all in the next one.